The Menendez brothers, a criminology case study. Their father, Jose Menendez, came to the U.S. at age 16 as a Cuban refugee. Jose met their mother, Kitty, while attending the Southern Illinois University. They soon moved to New York City, where they eloped, and Jose finished his education at Queens College. On January 10, 1968, Lyle was born while Kitty was working as an elementary school teacher, and Jose was finishing up his degree to become a CPA. After graduating, Jose began working for the international accounting firm Coopers & Lybrand, which brought the family back to Illinois and then to New Jersey. On November 27, 1971, Eric was born. The brothers grew up in Princeton, New Jersey, where they attended Princeton Day School. Jose was extremely controlling of his family, controlling what his sons ate, who they were friends with, and dictating every minute of their everydays. In 1985, Jose was offered the position of president at Live Entertainment and moved his family to Calabasas, California. Lyle, who was 17 at the time, stayed in New Jersey in order to finish up high school and attend Princeton University. Jose sexually abused both Lyle and Eric as children. He first sexually abused Lyle when he was 7 years old, forcing him to perform oral sex and then sodomizing him with a toothbrush. Lyle testified that Jose stopped sexually abusing him when he was 8 years old, but that Kitty continued to force him to perform sexual favors for her. Eric was sexually abused by his father from the age of 6 up until a few days before the murder. But Jose did not just sexually abuse his sons, he physically abused them as well. As for their mother, Kitty, she knew what her husband was doing, but refused to help Eric when he confided in her. The immense pressure that Jose put on his sons did not help their mental states either. In school, their teachers said that they acted very immature for their ages and even brought up the possibility of them having learning disorders, but Jose would hear nothing of it. Instead, he put so much pressure on his sons that Eric wet the bed until he was 14 years old and developed stomach pains, a stutter, and began habitually grinding his teeth. After their original trials resulted in hung juries, the judge presiding over Lyle and Eric's case barred any talk of their father's abuse during their trial, even though there were multiple family members willing to corroborate their story and it being the main cause for them murdering their parents. When Lyle was 15 and Eric was 12, the boys began to imitate behavior they had learned from their father. When their cousin Diane came to stay at the family's home, there were 2 incidents in which the boys were sexually aggressive, exhibiting behavior that they had learned from their father. Later, in Lyle's first year at Princeton, unable to meet his father's impossibly high expectations, Lyle was accused of plagiarism and suspended for a year. Back in Calabasas, the brothers began robbing their friends' parents, stealing an estimated $100,000 worth of goods. On August 20th, 1989, Lyle and Eric Menendez killed their parents. A few days prior, on August 15th, 1989, Kitty ripped off Lyle's toupee in an argument in front of Eric, who did not know his brother was balding. Seeing his brother's pain and embarrassment from the altercation, Eric told Lyle about Jose's continued sexual abuse. Lyle was outraged that his father was still abusing his little brother, and 2 days later confronted his father. He told his father to leave Eric alone, to which Jose responded, "What I do with my sons is my own business. Don't throw your life away. Stay out of it." Lyle interpreted his father's remark as a death threat towards him if he got involved in his father's business. Over the following days, Jose made more remarks that Lyle perceived to be death threats, including a phone conversation he had with his father. Lyle called to ask his father for the phone number of a tennis camp that he was planning on attending, to which his father had responded, "What does it matter anymore?" Lyle interpreted that remark as his father telling him that he would be dead by then. Both Lyle and Eric became convinced that their parents were planning on killing them in order to prevent them from exposing Jose's abuse and ruining his career. Jose attempted to enter Eric's room and abuse him once again the morning of Sunday, August 20th, 1989. However, Eric was able to evade his father's attempts, but Lyle decided that they had to get Eric out of the house before anything else happened. Things escalated later that day when the boys told their mother that they were going to go out and meet up with their friends. Kitty ordered them to stay in the house, and Jose became angry and told Eric to go upstairs to his room and wait for him, which prompted Lyle to scream, "No, you're not going to touch Eric." Jose and Kitty responded to Lyle's outburst by going into the TV room with the doors closed to talk. Lyle and Eric believed that their parents went to talk privately so that they could plan how they were going to kill their sons. Lyle and Eric then retrieved the shotguns they had previously purchased from the car, walked to the family room, and opened fire on their parents with their 12-gauge Mossberg shotguns. They shot at Jose twice, the first time shattering the glass door behind him, and then hitting him twice in his right arm and once in the left elbow. Then they blew open his skull with a contact shot to the back of his head that killed him. Kitty had begun to flee from her sons before they turned their attention to her. They shot her in her right arm and right calf, causing her to fall onto the coffee table. Kitty was able to stand up and attempted to flee again before she was hit in her right arm, her left breast piercing her lung, and her left thigh. The boys then went back out to their car to reload. When they came back into the house, they shot their mother with a contact shot to her left cheek, which shattered her skull. Lyle and Eric finished by shooting both their mother and father in their left knees. Before leaving the scene, the brothers carefully picked up all of the spent shell casings. Then they drove to Mulholland Drive to dispose of the shotguns and casings in the canyon. Then they made a stop at a petrol station where they threw away their bloodied clothes and went to a local movie theater to buy movie tickets to use as their alibi. At 11:47 p.m., a distraught Lyle called 911 to report finding his parents dead in their home in Calabasas. The call lasted 2.5 minutes, and Eric could be heard shouting in the background. Robert Agnew's general strain theory is the most applicable criminological theory to use in understanding why the Menendez brothers killed their parents. Agnew's theory expands on earlier versions of strain theory to identify 3 different kinds of strain. The first being the inability of individuals to achieve their goals, otherwise known as goal blockage, which can range from the disjunction between aspirations and expectations that classic strain theories focused on, to an individual's failure to achieve goals or meet expectations. The second kind of strain is the presence of noxious or negatively valued stimuli. Strain is felt when an individual is exposed to ill-favored circumstances or is negatively treated by others. The negative treatment can come in the form of bullying from an individual's peers or negative relationships and interactions with parents. The third type of strain that Agnew identifies is the loss of positively valued stimuli. This strain is felt when an individual loses something of value to them. Coupled with battered child syndrome, affective aggression can be used to describe the act of violence that the Menendez brothers committed. Described by Helfgott, the immediate goal of affective aggression is threat reduction, which involves a fight or flight behavioral response. The main identifying characteristic of affective aggression is that it is associated with lowered self-esteem, which takes the form of fear, anger, and anxiety prior to or during the violence, or profound feelings of guilt, remorse, and shame following the event. While it may seem like the Menendez brothers acted with predatory aggression, seeming planned, purposeful, intentional, and instrumental, their violence was a reaction to a perceived threat. Unlike in other crimes, when a threat is no longer perceived as imminent after a cooling down period, battered women and children still perceive an imminent threat no matter how much time has elapsed. The Menendez brothers' action was a reaction to a stimulus they perceived as an imminent threat, making it affective aggression. After a lifetime of noxious stimuli from sexual, physical, and psychological abuse at the hands of their parents, the Menendez brothers experienced strain that caused their early on criminally delinquent behavior. Jose Menendez had impossibly high expectations for his sons, and their inability to achieve those expectations, as well as their failure to achieve independence and escape their abusive parents, added to the strain they were already experiencing. Lyle lost his positively valued escape from the noxious stimuli his parents subjected him to when he was accused of plagiarism during his first semester at Princeton University, suspended for a year and sent home. Not only did he lose his only positively valued stimuli, he experienced strain from his failure to achieve his positively valued goal. The only thing keeping Eric going was the hope that he would be able to escape his father when he went to college. But when his father told him that he would be going to UCLA and living at home several nights a week, he lost the only positively valued thing in his life and failed to achieve his positively valued goal of leaving the abusive environment in his home. The brothers were experiencing extreme strain from years of abuse and exposure to noxious stimuli from their parents. Lyle and Eric perceived their parents of being capable of killing them and saw it as an imminent threat. Whether or not Jose and Kitty were actually planning on killing their sons, the Menendez brothers believed that they were. Lyle and Eric acted with effective aggression when they killed their parents. Eric exhibited profound feelings of guilt, remorse, and shame after he and his brother killed their parents, which is associated with effective aggression. His guilt and the emotional burden of the crime led him to meet with a psychiatrist on a regular basis after the murders and eventually caused him to confess to the crime. So, how well does general strain theory and effective aggression work in understanding why Lyle and Eric Menendez murdered their parents? Eric had been subjected to his father's abuse his entire life. He was experiencing extreme strain. He was unable to achieve his own positively valued goals and failed to meet his father's expectations for him. He spent his life exposed to noxious stimuli and lost the one positively valued thing in his life right before he killed his parents. Eric to this day exhibits profound remorse for killing his parents, especially his mother. While Eric had been subjected to his father's abuse his entire life, Lyle's abuse had ended years prior to the night they killed their parents. While it is possible that he really did perceive his parents to be an imminent threat to his and Eric's lives, he did not exhibit the remorse and guilt afterwards that Eric did. And Lyle was the one behind the giant spending spree the brothers went on after they killed their parents. Lyle's behavior does not perfectly fit into general strain theory, and it is hard to tell if he acted with effective aggression or if it was predatory aggression for monetary gain or revenge when he killed his parents. Lyle exhibited some behavior that is similar to a psychopath. If that is the case, it is likely that Lyle developed secondary psychopathy after the abuse he suffered from as a child, and it was Eric who was the one who experienced true strain.